morning is Venables lying.
There
I said it's called situation ethics.
you go.
This is great. Here we go. Welcome to We're Gonna Run It. Joe Lisi and Coach Terry Bowden. Big week number 7 on the horizon. Red River rivalry. You want to talk Texas, Oklahoma? You bring in the best national champion, former North Carolina and Texas head coach Mack Brown joins us. Coach, just give me your thoughts about the atmosphere surrounding the Red River rivalry and how you see this game potentially playing out on Saturday afternoon.
Well, Joe, thank you and Terry for having me on. Number one, and college football's as exciting as ever, and I can't wait till Saturday. Number one, Terry was in the Auburn, Alabama game, and I guess Terry, was it ever in Birmingham?
I coached against Stallings in the last one ever played there in 1996.
Well, that's what Dallas is like. The Cotton Bowl is like. It's 50-50. They fight on the stair line between the two. You one end you get cussed, the other end you get yelled and picked up, and it's the coolest thing in the world. And it's interesting that in this game, like I would think Auburn, Alabama, everybody in the state of Texas has a side.
Yeah.
Every one of them. And then you've got a whole state of Oklahoma, many of which have moved to Texas to work. And they all hate Texas so bad that they are around the Texas boosters on Monday and at church on Sunday. And I was with Coach Switzer last week, and he said, you know what? Nobody ever moves from Texas to Oklahoma. A lot of people move from Oklahoma to Texas. So that's why you got to put up with them when you're down there. And the game means so much. You think it, unlike Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, Texas OU's played in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
So you have to worry about the game before because your kids are looking ahead. You have to worry about the game after. If you win, they're bragging on them too much. If you lose, they're down and want you killed. I mean, that's just the way it is. And there's so many consequences. Mm-hmm. It used to, when we were playing, it was usually for a national championship, a conference championship. And now it's not as important simply because you can have 2 losses and still get in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So it's different than it was back then. But it's just, it's amazing that all that will be talked about in the state of Texas this week is the Texas OU game.
Yeah, Coach, both of us have had to deal with, as we kind of retired at the same time of our lives. NIL has come about. Portal transfer has bought kids going from one school to another. Do you think the players at Texas and Oklahoma, with all the transferring, understand the depth of this rivalry, and it means the same thing as it did 20 years ago?
Terry, I do, because the teams with the most money have the fewer transfers.
Yeah.
Some of these groups have 50, 60, 70 transfers, and I don't even know who the teams are.
Yeah.
You don't even know who's on your team. You don't know your team. It's kind of like the NFL. You look at the guy next to you and say, "What's your name? Where are you from?" But like Texas, they've got enough NIL money, they can pay the guys. And they want to stay and they want to be there. And it helps Oklahoma the same way. So I do think that this rivalry will stay more about the two teams. And so many of the kids are local kids. I don't think it'll disrupt this game as much as it will some others.
It is interesting, Coach, when you just look at Texas now. Arch Manning came in with all the hype. They made it to back-to-back college football playoff appearances. They're struggling a little bit. From what you've seen out of this team and just big picture, I mean, can they get back into the mix? And obviously this game is huge from just a rivalry perspective, but just from what you've seen early on, thoughts about Arch Manning and where this team is right now entering week number 7.
Well, Joe, it's a great question. Number one, they've lost 23 guys to the NFL starters over the last 2 years. Last year, I think they had 12 or 13. They're playing 4 new offensive linemen. Their receivers are basically all new. Their running backs have been hurt. Arch it was unfair to him, I think, with all the publicity. He didn't ask for it, but when you got that Manning name on the back of your jersey, you're going to get it. And he had only started 2 games. And then they go to Ohio State to open up. I'd rather open up with somebody easy. Then they had 3 easy games, and it's hard to tell who you are when you're not playing anybody. And then you play Florida, who lost a tough game at LSU. They lost a tough game at Miami. So they've played tougher competition and probably were more ready for that fight than before. I think Arch is really good. Steve mentioned a few things. Steve Sarkisian mentioned a few things Monday in his press conference. He said, number one, they gave up 6 sacks and got none. So they're going to have to re-identify their offense. What can we do to get the ball off and let Arch get it out of its hands faster without all those sacks? You can't have 6 sacks and win a game. Too many pre-snap and post-whistle penalties. And young people on the road, tough environment. Terry's played down in Gainesville. It's hard to hear when they're excited, and you let them get excited. And as Steve said, we missed some key opportunities. There's a couple overthrows. There's 3 turnovers. There's a blocked punt. There's 2 times where the punt, the Gunners could have gotten the ball inside the 5. They let it go in the end zone both times. So those things are just things that you can't do on the road and still have a chance to win. All of those things can be fixed. They've got to be fixed this week. I mean, you can't keep losing games, and that's just what it is. And the Texas OU game, you never know. Will Mateer play at quarterback? They're totally different with him than the other young man. The other young man played last year, and they sacked him 6 times, and he had trouble with completions. I think it's 10 out of 30. So it'll be a real interesting game this weekend. Oklahoma has really they've beaten Michigan and Auburn at home. They haven't played anybody else. And Michigan had a freshman quarterback, but Oklahoma's playing much better defense. Neither team is running the ball right now. And this is usually a line of scrimmage game, and both of them have struggled at the line of scrimmage. So that'll be really interesting. But, Joe, I do think that Arch Manning's the real deal.
Yeah.
He ran about 5 times the other day for 15, 16 yards. He made some outstanding throws. They've just got to give him more time.
Yeah. You know, if there's anything, there's certain things you learn from your father that you can't learn anywhere else. And he's got uncles and fathers and grandfathers. But I know as I was a coach, if I heard my dad say it one time, I heard him say it 100 times when saying we're going to be pretty good this year if we don't have injuries and we have great leadership. And I'm wondering again with the team where you need leadership in the locker room or on the field when the coaches aren't out there with you. Can you have that leadership? How do you know, like in a situation now, that you've got the leadership you used to build from the freshman up, that you got that kind of leadership, or do you have thoughts on that as well?
Terry, I do. I think I always felt like you didn't know what your leadership was like till you got in a really tough game in the fourth quarter.
Right.
You can't tell in the spring. Everybody's happy in the spring. You can scrimmage and pat everybody on the back. Mama's happy everybody gets to play. But even more so maybe after a tough loss on the road, you've got everybody getting after you. There's a lot more noise now than there used to be when you and I started coaching. That outside noise, they've got to shut that out. I do think that Steve Sarkisian's got great culture, and I think he's got a tremendous locker room just watching and listening to the kids and being out at practice. Mm-hmm. But at Auburn, where you were, at Texas, where I was, that noise can get loud, mm-hmm. and it gets loud fast, and that's when the guys have to step up and block it all out and pick each other up and help moving forward. And it's even tougher when they're saying the offensive line's struggling. They're really bad. Well, who's going to take up for those guys? They are struggling. They gave up 6 sacks. So you've really got to pull together and fight. And Terry, it's one of the best things that you and I had to do is take negatives and turn them into positives. Mm-hmm. And your dad, I always loved the quote, and the coaches at North Carolina and Texas got sick of hearing me say it. And I can't remember it exactly, but your dad would always say, don't keep practicing something that's not working. Change it, man. Change it. So if it's not working, fix it. Don't keep messing around with something that's not working. And that's what a lot of coaches are having to try to do this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back to your first stint at North Carolina when you had guys like Jonathan Linden and Chris Keldorf and that group, and how you recognize talent. And to what we see now in college football, you obviously had the best quarterback, 2006, Vince Young. I mean, just his athleticism. When you see the game today, Coach, and you just see the evolution of where we are, it's a much different game, isn't it, from where we were at the start of the decade, back in 2000, 20 years ago, to what we see now, obviously targeting and everything else. But what do you feel is the biggest change from when you coached back in the day in the mid-90s to where we are right now?
I think the biggest thing, Joe, is tempo. And Coach Bowden started it with Charlie Ward. And I mean, I remember us trying to get lined up while he was snapping balls. And then you're throwing it to Warwick Dunn. We didn't have anybody that could tackle him in practice. So when they flared him out and threw it to him and our guys were missing tackles, I didn't know what to tell him. Nobody else could tackle him either. But Coach was way ahead of the game. He had a quarterback that could run. You spread people out. You didn't have to be better than everybody else. And then he ended up recruiting great skilled people because of the concepts. And it's still about quarterback. One thing is a lot of people are better now because everybody's buying a quarterback. And we're seeing how many transfer quarterbacks there are. So if you don't have one, get all you boys together and get your money and you can go buy one. And that's just different than what it was. But that's the biggest thing I see is the tempo. And therefore, I see officials making more poor decisions because things are happening faster. There's more substitution, there's more shifting, there's more motion. And I really wish that we would take it upstairs. Yeah. If there's something that changes a game and it's a human error, why not take it upstairs and say, no, guys, I was watching Georgia Tech and Wake Forest the other day. Wake Forest makes a first down, the game's over. And Georgia Tech jumps off sides. They don't call it.
I saw it.
And Georgia Tech ends up winning the game. It's not fair for either team.
No.
Right.
It's not fair for those kids. It's not fair for that official that missed it.
Right.
So why can't we say, hey, no, call down. That's offsides. Walk it off 5 yards, take a knee, and the game's over. I think we've got to get to that the faster the game's going.
Yeah, and I want to say this too. I learned this, and you probably noticed it too. When I moved from, I transitioned from Auburn to television for 10 years before I came back into coaching. The worst view of the game are the officials. As I sit up in a press box on the TV monitor where I'm watching TV, I've got 6 different camera angles. Those officials have one, and they got the worst view, and it leads to them not being kind of afraid to make that touchdown call or that short yardage. But it also means you better go get on that review camera because everybody else can see it.
Yeah. And Terry, your buddy's not going to tell you messed it up. Why don't you go over there and tell him he missed it? Tell him he missed it, man. He said, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to make him hurt his feelings and embarrass him publicly.
Yeah. Coach, are you a fan? Because I'm not. I mean, I was never a fan. Call me crazy. From the expansion from 4 teams with the playoff to now 12. But now there's talk of potentially 16 and maybe we'll go the FCS route and maybe go 24. Are you a fan of that? And the other question was, when we talk about this conference realignment and we talk about how this rivalry is huge, Texas, Oklahoma, and then knowing that a rivalry, Oklahoma State now is on the back burner. We haven't seen it. That's what really shaped college football when you think about the pageantry, the tradition. What are your thoughts about just, the overall rivalries just being pushed out for newer ones?
Well, Oklahoma quit playing Nebraska.
Yeah.
Colorado quit playing Nebraska. Texas and Texas A&M quit playing. I mean, Arkansas and Texas quit playing. That's what we grew up with. Yeah. That was the fun, the passion, the fights, the competition. And I hate that we're losing some of that because of money.
Yeah.
And Joe, we're headed toward an NFL model, in my opinion, and that's what the playoffs are headed to. Where I laugh when I hear administrators say, "This isn't the NFL. We're paying kids. It's sure not amateurism. So what is it? It's somewhere in between." And I think we should be paying kids, but we should have thought about what we were going to pay them, how we were going to pay them, and having a structure instead of having no plan and then having consequences from it. And then the transfer portal and the NIL collided, and tampering's awful. I mean, it is awful. These guys can say, well, we don't tamper. Well, they are. They're picking up the phone. Their agents are calling each other. And we had agents calling us during the year saying, look, you're playing against this guy in 3 weeks, and he's making this much. He wants to make this much. How much can you pay him? I mean, it was ridiculous. Calling our collective But I do think the NFL has a great structure. It's the first time I've thought the NFL, their plan is a lot better than the college football plan right now. So why not sit down with Roger Goodell and those guys and say, you took years to get this plan. Let us hear you. Talk about collective bargaining. Talk about player agents and representatives, and talk about playoffs. Because if you have 16, are you going to still play the group of 5 teams on your schedule? Because now we're going to 9 conference games. Are you going to play a conference championship game? Or are you just going to have a tiebreaker and the team that wins the most win? Because that adds another game. Are you going to cut back to 10 games if you're adding 16 teams? I hate it that we finish in January, late January, January 20th. We used to finish January 1, 4. That was so cool to have everything finished. Those kids miss a last semester of the fall in December. They miss the start of a semester in January. They miss their holidays. So we've got to think about the kids. We got to think about the coaches. Their schedules are horrible now. I was on the Nike trip this year with 29 other college coaches. They're making $7 to $10 million and miserable. They're miserable. Yeah. And it's just, it shouldn't be that way. So I think when we talk about expand, let's don't do what we did with NIL and transfer portal. Let's look at consequences. Let's talk to the kids. Let's talk to the trainers. What's healthy? Do you still have a spring practice if you finish in January 20th? I had coaches this year saying, we're going to have it like OTAs in the NFL. I can't beat those guys up until January 20th and then go back in March and hit them for 15 days. Are you going to have spring games anymore? Are you going to have summer practices because you got so many transfers, you need to get to know your team better? So there's some real issues out there, Joe, that need to be fixed, in my opinion.
You know, as we look back, I think you would agree that the lessons we were able to teach and grow young people are things we appreciate the most, but also the memories that we have from our time coaching. One last question too. Do you have a favorite Red River, I shouldn't say shootout, Red River rivalry game or event that you were part of in the past that you always remember a little more than others?
Dude, Terry, it is hard to say Red River rivalry.
I know.
That's tough. And they think you've been drinking when you're.
I know.
I can't even get it out. I thought about this week because I didn't talk about this game while I was coaching at North Carolina for those years because I thought it was disrespectful.
That's right.
So this is it's been brought back to my mind a lot this year. And there are really 3 of them that stick out very quickly. The first one is Doak Walker died right before the game. Ricky Williams was so close to him that he wore number 37 instead of his regular 34 in the game, scored on a 37-yard touchdown and pointed up to Doak in heaven. And then we gave his jersey to Doak's family in the locker room after the game. That was really cool. I mean, just for the history and the Doak Walker Award and Ricky winning it and all those things. Then the national championship game, Terry, we'd lost a number of games to them. There was a streak. We had just beaten Ohio State, but we knew we had to get through Dallas to get to play USC for the national championship. I think it was like 45-14 or something. We killed them, and the guys were pumped and excited. And then in 2008, they were number 1 in the country. We were number 5. It was 2 great teams, and we ended up winning the game 45-35. So I think those are the 3 that I remember just being changes in our program.
That's incredible. That's incredible. It should be a great game this weekend. I know you're back in Texas. We'll see. They're favored in the game, Coach. So, I mean, 1.5 points. I mean, Arch Manning can get right back to where he started at the start of the year if he dominates, and hopefully Mateer plays for Oklahoma. So that way we get the best product on Saturday afternoon. But we'd love to have you on again. Thanks for the insight and information. It's fantastic.
Well, thanks, guys, for having me on. I love the Bowden family, and anytime any one of them wants me to do anything, I just have a smile on my face, and I know Coach is smiling in heaven.
Awesome.
Thank you, Coach Brown. Appreciate it back.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Coach, that's great stuff. That was a great get when you just think about Coach Mack Brown and what he's able to bring, and national championship. I mean, those games with Vince Young and all those teams. I remember when he started, like I said, with North Carolina.
I know.
They were 10-2. He couldn't beat Florida State. They were. I remember in 1997.
Oh, I know.
That game was a rain-soaked. I believe Chapel Hill. They were in that game. Jonathan Linton, the former Buffalo Bill, Keldorf went in there. They had some great players back in the day. Unfortunately, Florida State at that time was just so much more dominant, and your dad was at the pinnacle with those players. You mentioned Warwick Dunn and the crew, but you hear Mac's thoughts about where Arch and the Longhorns are, and this is a real step-up spot for them. They really have to basically showcase they are a contender again.
Yeah, and out of respect, I did not want to ask him too much about North Carolina. I mean, he probably has his opinions, but that's such a kind of a controversy right now, and I have so much respect for Coach Brown. I just that's not not for him to publicly talk about too much.
He did pump up. I don't know if you saw it. He did pump up his former quarterback Drake May that had a dynamic performance against the Bills. They got the win. Yep. I mean, Drake May, playing fantastic right now for the New England Patriots. But you just think about, and North Carolina, to your point, where they were, where he got them. Prior to him leaving Texas, North Carolina was at one of the best in the ACC at that particular time.
Yeah,
you didn't think Clemson, right? When your brother just took over the job, you thought North Carolina and Mac Brown, and just known as one of the best coaches and best recruiters at that particular time when recruiting really mattered. Now you hear Coach talk; it's all about the bag of cash, and it's amazing what's transpiring in college football.
Yeah, it's funny. He mentioned he had just gotten back on his last Nike trip. Back when I was at Auburn, we took those Nike. They would take about 20 of us coaches either to Cabo or to Caribbean. And the stories we could tell about Jim Sweeney. It's one of those places you go as a staff and nobody talks, nobody tells. But Johnny Majors, Jim Sweeney, those great old names, the stories we had together were great. And really, Mac was one of the young guys with us,
Right.
And the old guys were Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno, and Lavelle Edwards. They were the old guys. It's almost like E.F. Hutton says, who was a great announcer that it was at ABC when we got in the business out of the West Coast.
Brad Nessler? Oh,
no,
Jackson.
Yeah, I remember when I first went to ABC and we'd have our big staff meetings and he would stand up to say something. Everybody, you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah,
you'd hear a pin drop because everybody had to hear what he said. Well, that's kind of Mac Brown, what we would do when we were together.
I'm going to tell you this. Under the radar announcer back in the day.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Gary Bender back in the day. Would you remember Gary Bender?
I don't know. That's before I got that television, I think.
Yeah, you were still at Auburn. You were still at Auburn, Gary Bender. And then there was Ron Franklin,
Yeah, Ron, I knew Ron real well.
Mike Godfrey.
Ron. They worked together on the the first Thursday night games together. And for some reason, I've always said this again, that Brent Musburger and the coach from Kansas, I couldn't remember his name again, his partner, that
Frank
was the head.
Broyles?
His partner that was with the Eagles and with the
Vermeil.
Vermeil and them. They had all Vermeil and they had all my big games. But anyway, it was good times. Mac, great coach, Mac.
I wish he said he loved me, but he loves the Bowden family.
Hey,
don't get to know me.
When they say they love the Bowdens, that's like when I would go speak somewhere. That was a wonderful talk. Can I have your dad's autograph? I lived with it all my life. That's what it was about, no matter what I did.
Well, I'll tell you, I told you this.
Yeah.
My best memory of watching Miami, Florida State came in 2012 when I came to see, or 2012 or 2013, when you were at Akron and you invited me over to the house. And I still have the picture. It's me, it's you, it's your mom, your dad. Tommy wasn't there. Jeff was there, obviously, on your staff. And Chuck Amato, and we're in the house
he was there
watching Miami and Florida State. I said, this doesn't get any better than this if you're a college football. I'm watching it with big chest Chuck Amato. We were hanging out. And that's how hyped that game was on Saturday.
I was
unbelievable.
I was watching YouTube yesterday, and how you just flip through the little video, the podcast, and all of a sudden you'll see something. One came up of a field goal Florida State was trying to kick against Miami. I couldn't watch it. Yeah. They missed so many of those. I could not watch it, and that was not even me coaching. That was my old man coaching. Right. They missed about 3 of those games. And back then, if you won that game, whoever won it was going to play for the national championship against somebody, And but anyway, I'm glad to see. And that good point. It's good to see great rivalries back. We need Southern Cal, Notre Dame's, Oklahoma, Texas, and Florida State.
Absolutely.
And
I'll
Miami.
tell you what. When you just look at the rivalries that we're going to see in the next couple of weeks, and we just talk about, just transforming college football and where we are entering week number 7, that game mattered. It mattered to keep at least what somewhat is pure in college football. It used to be, rivalries are pure, right? We know back in the day, you could say SMU and all the teams that were paying out cash under the table was probably, let's be honest, in today's landscape, probably had more structure back then than it does now.
Absolutely. Well, this weekend I'm going to Auburn, Alabama. I'm going to go watch Auburn play Georgia, and watch that game. And they've been playing each other for 100 years. And it's a great old rivalry game.
Yeah, well, you better take some pictures for me because
I'll take them.
I know it's the SEC's oldest rivalry, but you also played in the SEC's first overtime game in this game back in 1996, where Georgia caught you, and my former partner Corey Allen caught the game-tying pass against your defense with Mike Bobo. And then Tori and Kirsty ran it in. Remember?
I'm sick thinking about it. I was on an Auburn podcast today, and we talked about that game. And I had Stan White on with me today.
Oh, Stan White.
Stan was he was a quarterback.
Giant. He's a former New York Giant.
Yes, he was. He went with the Giants. But anyway, good day. It's going to be a good week of football. We've got Mac was good. I'm pumped up. We've got some good stuff.
Yeah, so let's go back because we talked Florida State, Miami briefly. What stood out to you? Because we broke down all the games and gave our picks. I guess 2 biggest things for me, and I want to get your take. One, I believe from a defensive perspective, Miami is potentially just as good right now as Ohio State. I just said defense. I didn't, And the other thing is Texas is bad. And I don't know. They are. That was the head scratcher to go in there and see them get smacked around by a down and out Florida team coming out of a bye. They were both coming out of byes, but to see how Florida took it to Texas early on, it's like they weren't even motivated. They came out in a slump.
I almost think that Texas was not mentally ready to play. I mean, they had seen. The word of coming out of Gainesville was so bad. That we're bad. We're getting rid of their coach. We're getting rid of everybody. Lagway's terrible. How many times did they let those kids watch the LSU game where Lagway threw 5 picks? I think you could be very careful how much of their film you let them see, because there were a lot of things that you wouldn't mentally get ready, and it did not look like. And when I see a team come out flat in a game that important, I wonder a little bit. I mean, were they not mentally ready to go? And I think in a lot of ways that can happen. Even in games, you say, how in the world can that happen? I've been coaching. It can happen. You've got to – your preparation is a key. But right now, I'll be honest with you, I still think Texas philosophically, I don't know if they have the approach they've got with their offensive football team. And I'm not sure you can change it in the middle of a season. It's something you have to have going into spring. What are my 3 best runs? What I'm going to hang my hat on? Where am I going to get after their ass? Where am I going to run the ball right down the throat? And I'm going to punish about 6 guys on the defensive line on the way to the linebackers. You got to have some of that built in if you're going to be a physically tough championship team, like you see when you think of a Georgia or an Alabama winning team with all their Heisman running backs, or even a Ohio State. The great teams that play for the championship, they usually can line up there with a eye back and come at you right downhill.
Coach, I don't think they have an offensive identity. They came in, it's like they were told they had an offensive identity, but they don't have one. And we talked about it. So last year, they had probably one of the hottest wide receivers that now is playing for the Green Bay Packers, Matt Golden. They
Right.
had Isaiah Bond, but he was the invisible man.
Right.
He had 4.2 speed, but basically didn't catch a pass. Gunnar Helm was the other big play wide receiver, their tight end that made multiple catches down the stretch, and obviously in the game against Arizona State, and in the playoff loss to Ohio State. So when you look at what they lost, they had wide receivers that couldn't answer the bell, Wingo and some of the rest, right? They're coming into form.
Right.
And they had a quarterback that had the name but didn't have the experience.
Right.
So, and they're not running the football. So
No.
when you couple in all of those factors and the fact that they lost that game the way they did against Ohio State, completely shut down and one-dimensional, I think it got into their psyche a little bit. And now they were told how good they were. And maybe after a while, they realized, who are we? And they came out just walking through the motions against the Gators.
And I think a little bit has been each week, what kind of game plan can we have to bring the quarterback along? Okay, we're gonna throw up. We're much better than this team, so let's get 400 yards passing as soon as we can, build a confidence up. Next game, we got to do this. The next game, I think they've got to get back. What do we got to do to win the game?
Right.
We got to run the football. We got to mix the run with the pass. Arch throws the deep ball well. What we got to do this game to win the game, and this is what we're going to expect out of them. I think it's got to be. It's got to know more about what's the quarterback going to do, but what are we going to do as an offensive football team? Because you're right. Right now they don't have any offensive identity, and the defense. And the defense in Oklahoma is going to be ready. Brent Venables going to have that defense ready. We don't know if John Mateer is going to play. We think he is. But we do know who's going to show up, and that's those 11 guys in those red jerseys for Oklahoma.
Yeah, so you look at the spread. The spread had at the start a couple of hours ago, and even maybe yesterday, a Texas favorite by 2.5 points. Right. Now it's down to 1.5. That leads me to believe, by Wednesday we'll have a better understanding about where we stand. But I believe this Mateer is 85% healthy. He's going to go in this game because, again, it matters so much to Oklahoma now. Forget the rivalry. They have an opportunity. They get this game under their belt. They can afford one loss, per se, and potentially still be that at-large team to make the college football playoff. And that's the measuring stick right now for Brett Venables. Another dominating home effort over Kent State. They shut him out. Michael Hawkins plays adequately. And if they have to go to Hawkins, at least he has the experience in this type of ball game where you can roll it. He played in this game last year as well. When we look at some of the other games, I think it's intriguing. Alabama on the road against Ahmad Hardy and this Missouri offense, 3.5-point road favorites. Yeah, they should win. They dominated them last year, but they can't stop the run right now. And we saw Vanderbilt put up basically 7.6 yards per carry. I understand a majority of that came from Pavia. They give up one long run, but if Missouri's going to be hell-bent on running the football, well, here we go, game on. This could be a 4-quarter game.
Yeah, well, Mizzou, first of all, I was talking to someone today that we've both been a part of the SEC for a long time. We've never quite really thought of Mizzou as one of the powers of the conference, but they have been a fantastic football team the last 3 or 4 years. Head coach is doing a great job. They've had great records. And they have brought in some outstanding football players. I think it's easy to underestimate Missouri, but if you do, you better be careful. Got a great head coach. They play great football, and they'll knock you off if you're not ready to play. I think Alabama's going to have a real test here. I do think if Alabama will play their game, because I think there is that still concern that just when things start going good for Alabama, they lose their edge. They lose their edge, and they don't play with that intensity. Because we saw that intensity getting after Pavia and Vanderbilt in that game. Because when they took the ball wide, people were coming after the ball carrier fast, and a lot of aggressive play on defense.
I agree. And then anytime you have a road matchup, even though maybe Missouri's not looked at for Roe Field as one of those dominating places, Missouri, I believe, has still got a winning streak going on when you just look at the body of work for Mizzou. They had a 15-game home winning streak at the start of the year dating back to September. They're undefeated now. When you just look at it 5-0 and Bo Perbula and that offense are playing lights out. I think the other matchup too, when you just look at it and we just look at the spread perspective, what are we going to get out of Indiana and Oregon? Let me ask you this, because twofold it goes. So the fact that Penn State lost after Oregon, people are discounting the Oregon win the week prior. I don't see how you could do that. It would, to me, the loss to UCLA by Penn State is a typical letdown spot. Great, right. I'll give all the credit to Neuheisel, the offensive coordinator, the interim staff, and everything else. But you caught Penn State at just the right time, coming off a marquee loss at home to one of the top teams in the nation, and now you got to go West Coast with about 10,000 fans in attendance. I'm not saying UCLA didn't deserve that. I'm just saying I put more weight into Oregon's win on the road a couple of weeks ago than other people maybe are buying in, because they're saying, oh, well, you know what? Oregon's not that good because they went down to the wire with Penn State in OT.
No, that's not true. Penn State was at their prime against Oregon. They were believing they could be a national champion. They were at their best in that football game. They gave us their absolute worst against UCLA, but they were at their best. And I think Dan Lanning, I think their body of work at Oregon, you can't ignore the body of work of how good they were last year, how well they refilled the lost players, and how they play football. They just got their program built up to now where you don't have the history of an Ohio State, but you seem to be within the last 2 or 3 years reloading. They've got their NIL program. They've got their portal transfer program. They've got their development program. They've got everything going where they're reloading with good players every year. And then we see them coming across the country to the old Big Ten territory and knocking off people. So I'm anxious to see this one. It's ought to be a good game. I just don't. And it's, again, does Indiana have the talent that Oregon has, or is they just got a head coach that's got them guys believing they can beat anybody?
They have to run the football. I'll say that. Have to run the football. Can't just be the Fernando Mendoza show, trying to complete 91% of his passes. I think Lanning's too good of a head coach. I think he'll try to take away, obviously, the strength of that team, and we'll see exactly how it plays out. Coach and I, for the record, are going to be on tonight, obviously going live, and then tomorrow we'll be off the rest of the week, but we'll put up picks. We'll put out all of our breakdowns today and tomorrow regarding these matchups. Another one, Ohio State and Illinois. I think that's interesting. Illinois, you look at the victory over USC, blue-collar win. They get another win over Barry Odom and Purdue. Ohio State, I mean, they just took care of business against Minnesota. One-dimensional Minnesota. Wow. Every year, that's all they do is get smacked around by Ohio State. No different. Jeremiah Smith, Julian saying the offense is starting to catch up now to the defense. They're going to be a very difficult out the rest of the way.
Yeah, this game here, I'm really looking forward to it, because the Illini, I kind of see the Indiana game as being kind of an outlier. They just were not ready for that style of play. I think Ohio State will play their brand a little bit more. There'll be a mix. Although Illinois throws the ball probably better than they run it right now. They can throw that football. You just think of them as a power team. But I like the way these two teams match up. I think Ohio State is better than Illinois at the same type of ball game. They're going to play the same type offensively. I just think when you look at player by player, position by position, Ohio State just is loaded, but I think we'll get a good indication of where both teams are, because I think this will be a real test for both teams.
It will, and I gotta be honest. I look at this schedule this week, right, and you're talking to all these top 10 battles, right? You know what game I go to? I love Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. I like this Arkansas, Tennessee. Well, I'm nuts. When I want to see Petrino in Arkansas on the road in Knoxville. I love this matchup. They're catching 12.5. I think, Pig Suey could be live. And what did I tell you about Virginia Tech? The minute that they lost the conference game and Robbie Ashford and Wade caught them this weekend, I am going against them. They're on the road in Atlanta. Sell. I'm all in. I know it's not easy, but I think one of my better picks already is Georgia Tech. Now, the game that upset me last week was Washington and Jed Fish. They started so slow against Maryland. If there was 3 more minutes left in the game, Coach, they get the winning cover against the Terps. I'm so terrible about that game. So upset.
I'm learning so much. You don't turn that TV off. When I got a little money on the game, I get backdoored and I see a team at the very end of the game. You see how close it is. You got to know your stuff. But that's the way it is nowadays. I think any team right now, even more than in the past, the old saying, on any given day. Well, right now that carries so much more weight because of the quality of the Power 4 teams around the country that are picking up backups at Alabama. Now he's the star player at this school. Backup at Texas. He's now the star player at that school. Right. I mean, you don't sit on the bench anywhere. You go be a star somewhere else. And that's what we're seeing.
And not only that, I think it's important from the spread perspective, unless we're talking elite teams, unless we're talking Ohio State, unless we're talking, let's say, we'll throw Miami in just for now. If you're laying a 23, a 24, a 28-point spread, a la Georgia, it's very difficult in today's game with the lack of the stopping the clock on first downs, where the underdog seems to have the advantage almost every weekend.
I think I've learned in this business, when in doubt, grab the underdog, because it is. The game's played faster, the talent level is more equal, and you're not able to pull away like you used to. It usually takes a big turnover game for a game to get carried away like that, where they lead to points, and you fall so far behind because of that. But it's got to be a game of taking the dog, go with the dog, and look for the big spreads.
Yeah, I want to see how Trinidad Chambliss plays coming out of the bye week. They play Wash State. Now, they're laying 33.5. They shouldn't be challenged in any capacity against the Cougars, but you never know. I want to see how Florida State responds, right? Two emotional losses. Now they're laying 10.5 to Heinsteichel and Pittsburgh, right? They benched Eli Holstein for
the new guy looks great.
Heinsteichel comes in, he abuses, he slaps around Bill O'Brien and Boston College. That's where I want to ask you, because I don't know if you saw the report. Supposedly, now Boston College is playing terrible right now. They're 14-point dogs to Clemson. Apparently, Bill O'Brien goes on the weekly talk show, I guess, with the students and the administration had basically said to the show, we don't want Bill O'Brien on the show. That's the administration.
Holy cow.
So supposedly he's got one. I don't know. Now, Coach, if you're hearing that type of report, what does that basically mean to you? It's the Boston College broadcast. Coach isn't invited to the show. What does that mean?
Something's up behind her back. Something's up.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. So now let me ask you this. You're playing Clemson this week.
Right.
They have any shot to win this game or no?
I don't think so. I think Clemson now has gotten a dose of energy from that game, and I think no, I don't think they can. I mean, I've got to read a little bit more, but right now my inclination is Clemson's going to have another fairly good game. And what's the line right now? What's
14.
It running? I mean, that's right there at the edge. But I mean, I'd have a hard. If I had to go with that team, I don't know if that's going to be one of my picks this week. But I've got to. Right now, my first thoughts are the way Clemson playing, the way BC's playing, that I've got to think Clemson can take it.
Let me ask you this: 2 other games. They say Garrett Nussmeyer's 100% healthy. They're coming out of a bye week. This is the game last year. Lenora Sellers almost stole it in Williams-Brice. This game scares me if you're an LSU fan. They're laying 8.5. They should dominate the Gamecocks. Any shot this game's a 4-quarter game, though?
Yeah, I mean, you get Lenora Sellers, as talented as he is, he can get it real close. And South Carolina started out playing pretty good defense, and LSU played good defense. Anytime you got 2 defenses that usually play pretty good, you've got a chance to be in this game through the 4th quarter. And, if LSU doesn't turn the ball over or give up big plays, I see this being a close football game. I mean, I'm not so sure I wouldn't take South Carolina just because of the LSU's lack of ability to score. You could say, well, they've learned their lesson. Well, dang, they should have learned it a couple of weeks ago, and not taken the loss, not knowing it. So again, I would have to think. My first thoughts is South Carolina can keep it within 14 and a half in this game.
Let me ask you about the Gators. Can they continue the momentum against a red-hot Texas A&M? This Texas A&M team could be one of the best in the country. You mentioned how good they're playing on the defensive side of the ball, holding back-to-back opponents to 1 of 23 on third down conversions. Mike Elko has that defense humming right now. Right. That offense, we know, puts up basically almost 35 to 40 points a game. Could they keep? I mean, I feel like Florida always matches up against A&M. These games are never easy. They always go down to the wire. I mean, if you're Napier, you have a new lease on life, but you got to get this victory.
If you're going to go with Florida, you ought to go with them now, because right now, if they gained the confidence that they should have gained in that victory they had over this past weekend over Texas, if the quarterback needs a boost of confidence, he got it. And they should go into Texas College Station at their best football. And I would think if you want to go take Florida, you would take them now. I have been very strong on A&M. And I think if it gets to be an offensive scoring match, they can come out and score points. If it's a defensive match, they can come out and play defense. So that when the day is done, I think I'll probably stick with Texas A&M. But when you say, could Florida go out and do it? God dang, if DJ Lagway goes out there and is hot or plays his kind of game, they can play with anybody. There's not a team in America that Florida can't play with.
Their defense is as good as anybody. I'll say that. There hasn't been one game that they were basically abused. I know they allowed 26 against Miami, but that was basically a result of their offense not converting a third down.
That's right.
I mean, the longer that your offense gives you a short field, it's almost like taking body shots in a heavyweight title fight. Eventually, you're gonna get knocked out, and that's exactly what happened with that matchup with the Hurricanes. Do you agree?
Yeah, and if you remember, South Florida defense stopped South Florida's. Florida's offense had to get one more first down, and the game's over. Right. Just get one more first down, and the game's over. But they couldn't get a first down, and UCF had one more drive at the end, and the defense was finally worn down. And but that game could have been over with a little bit of help with their offense. They would have won 16-15. Yeah. But they went down, got a field goal, and lost it 18-16. And that's kind of where that thing started snowballing right there.
They were entering that game against Texas, one of the worst third down offenses in the country. They were averaging 30% on third down conversions. Right. They hit a 50 spot against that Longhorn defense this past weekend. 7 of 14. I mean, how bad was that effort when you just look at it? 7 of 14 they converted on third downs. I mean, they made that defense look like Swiss cheese at some points.
Well, they ran for 150. I was looking it up. They ran for 159 yards. Florida ran the ball pretty well against Texas. Yeah. When you do that, you're gonna have a good percentage on third downs. When you're like Texas, and I think they ran for 52 yards in the ball game, it's all downhill from there. And it's a funny thing that we talk about. We're going to run it. That ought to be the theme of college football right now. If we're going to win football games, somewhere along the line, we got to run it. And we got to run it physically, not by luck, not by a quarterback every now and then just scrambling and picking up yardage. When the quarterback's the leading rusher and it's all scramble and not design plays, that's really not a running attack. That's just a good athlete at quarterback.
Right. I like when they get a hat on a hat. You get the pull, tackle, kick it out on a nickel back or a corner, and then
that's
all of a sudden you get that running back up in the hole. Yeah. And with some physicality. That's really wears down and breaks the will of a defense, right? You can see the finesse teams as opposed. I think Georgia's in that mix. I think Bama potentially could be in that mix lately just from how they're running the football. Obviously, Ohio State is in that type of mentality. I'm trying to think who else I'd say fits, that can really run the football. between you would say Penn State, but again, you could do it against top 40 competition.
Yeah.
I need to see it when you do it against top 10 competition and actually win a game. That would be helpful.
Well, when you do that, there's two things that when it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, you got to have it, or you're in the red zone and all of a sudden your safeties are 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. You can run it. I mean, to get down there and you have it run like that, you're not imaginally going to put 12 personnel and 13 personnel in to run well. You got to practice it and do it. And when it comes out to help you is on a short yardage or goal line,
right,
when they know you're going to run the ball, or when you're trying to run the clock out and you need to get one more first down and you don't want to throw it because that stops the clock if you get an incompletion, and you got to run it when they know that you got to be able to run it when they know you're going to run it in certain situations in the game.
I agree. I saw this on one of the Arkansas Razorbacks boards. Just get your take. They had 5 head coaches listed, okay, for potential replacements for Sam Pittman. Gruden, Rhett Lashley, John Summerall, Petrino, and then they threw in Dan Mullen, which I'm sorry. I like Dan. I think he's a great coach. From an off, Arkansas needs help defensively. Why you would go to Dan Mullen that he built a program with Miss State, but they never had a defense? I mean, why? I want to coach. If I'm an administrator or I'm an Arkansas backer inside, give me a guy that coaches both sides of the ball. You're going up against the likes of Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee. You can't just put up 500 yards of total offense and give up 60 yards per clip to Notre Dame and get smacked in the mouth. Am I wrong?
Nope. You got to have them both sides of the ball, and your head coach generally is going to be probably fundamentally more knowledgeable of one side more than the other, but he's going to know enough about the other to bring in the right guy to help him on that side of the ball. And my problem is I really haven't studied all those head coaches to know which one I know puts the package together.
But Summerall, Summerall.
Oh no, but I always turn to him. I said that's one of my guys because I know his body of work. I've watched him build a program. You take a team like he went to Troy, and he goes to Troy. And we had beaten them my first year at UL. They were okay. They weren't great like they used to be. He comes in, and for 2 years they dominate the conference. And they dominate. They win it, right. And they win and then he goes to Tulane, and they win 10 there. And so it's just that you say, and those aren't easy places to win all the time or the level. And Troy went right back down after he left, and who knows, unless they get the right guy at Tulane, it may happen there at Tulane. But I do feel like the body of work I've watched with him, I know what I'm going to get. That's like the coach at Kansas. I have a lot of feel about him because
Leipold.
Yeah, because I played coached against him when he was at Buffalo, and I went back and watched and saw the success he had at Wisconsin Whitewater, 6 national championships. Well, I said, well, that's just Division III. Well, that's all he had was Division III players.
Right.
He won. He built the champion. But you watch him along the way, and he has kind of done that at Kansas. He's gotten them playing respectable football again, and so I kind of watch the body of work because I'm real leery of a guy that really hasn't shown he can win at a place where nobody else has won or people don't usually win, and he wins a little more than usual. And that's usually one of the things that you want to look for,
Yeah, so we'll see exactly what transpires with the search. I think Arkansas is live this week. Call me crazy, but I'm willing to back my guy, Taylon Green. I just think Petrino, he fired everybody on the defensive side of the ball. Let's see what they can give you. These Arkansas-Tennessee games for years. And I'll keep going back to the Witten days with, the 6 overtimes, Matt Jones, the Corey Birmingham, give me a little Houston Nutt. I was always back in the Razorbacks back then. I'm going to be taking the points. I'm telling you that right now. I'm taking the 12.5. Coming out of a bye week, we'll see exactly what Joey Aguilar and Tennessee give you. I'm just looking at a couple other games that we didn't really preview just yet. See if at Michigan USC. I mean, Michigan. I mean, this is like the Rose Bowl, right? This is back in the day, Rose Bowl. What do you think of it?
What's the numbers on that?
I guess I'll tell you what it is. I know what it is. What do you think it is?
USC 1.5.
2.5.
2.5. Okay.
So what do you think? Yeah, you would make USC.
I'm not riding them.
favorite.
I'm not riding them right now. I'm almost thinking Michigan's going to go out there and kick their fanny. The
I
quarterback's
so
getting
too.
better at Michigan. The quarterback's getting better and better, and they let him kind of let it hang out last time he played last week. And I don't have a lot of confidence in USC. I'm almost saying, you know what, Michigan, this was going to be kind of a rebuilding year, but dang it, we're halfway through the season. They're playing pretty good right now.
They are. That's one of the games that I have my eye on when you look at it. Excuse me. Dylan, this dryness here on the East Coast is ridiculous. But so 2.5, another one, Nebraska, 6.5 against Maryland. Notre Dame, can Notre Dame, the way they're playing, get back into the playoff mix? Do you feel that?
See, you know what? We both said no after 0-2. But you know, if they win and continue to win, people love to jump on that bandwagon. They just love it, and they pleased everybody last year. They proved that they could come back, and so you know they're playing pretty good. The quarterback's kind of like a Simpson in Alabama. They've got a couple of running backs, Jeremiah Love and
Jadarian
Price, and they're pretty dang good. They're not as good defensively as I thought they would be, but you know what? My thoughts are no, but I keep thinking you wait how people vote. They start winning and winning big. I don't think they're going to play another team in the top 25. They may have USC. No, they're out of the top 25 now. I don't think they've got a top 25.
The schedule is pathetic.
Yeah, it's not good. And so my thoughts are no, but I wouldn't swear to it. I just think the way people jump on their bandwagon, they could be moved back in.
They've won 3 straight against unranked opponents.
That's right.
Purdue, Arkansas, they beat, 25th ranked. Boise State, NC State, USC, Boston College, that's lost 3 straight, probably 4 straight after this weekend. Navy, okay, they play Navy every year for the most part. Pitt, Syracuse, and Stanford. Give me a break, Coach.
Yeah.
You got it.
No, I mean, I agreed with you. I said the body of work is not going to be strong enough, but the people that love to follow and they get a couple of very decisive wins, the press will be all over them, and to some extent, it carries a little bit of weight.
Yeah, we'll see. We previewed all of the SEC games. I just want to take a look at any ACC games that are big. None. No,
not a big no. Got a few
no
of them.
big ACC. Let me take a look at. Well, KU and Texas Tech is interesting.
Yeah, I've got that down because Texas Tech is right in the thick of winning it all, and that is a really good. There's a couple of Big 12 games I think that's got good teams in the conference.
Were you shocked about Iowa State on Saturday?
Yeah, that was another one. I mean, Iowa State and Mississippi State. You know what? But I didn't do my homework. I know Matt Campbell well. I know how he plays, how he coaches. They win close ball games. But I didn't study. Satterfield, I know him too. I've coached against that guy. Does a great job. He was at App State, did a great job. And I should have paid a little more attention to Cincinnati. I let old gut feel take over. But you know what? Now, Iowa State came back. They just got so far behind, they couldn't catch up. And I was a little bit shocked that they couldn't slow Cincinnati down more than they did. But they got so far behind, no matter what they did, they couldn't quite catch up. Although he did make it pretty close at the end, but not enough. I was a little bit shocked.
We'll see. Coach and I will be back tomorrow. I'm putting the guest list together. Potentially, we'll have our picks. We'll rip off all these games we like, games we don't like. For Coach Bowden, I'm Joe Lisi. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow, and we're going to run it.